Hello, my name is Angel Velez, and I'm the co-founder and director of the Los Angeles Film Conducting Intensive, an organization dedicated to providing professional development opportunities for media composers, and all via the lens of conducting. I am delighted you can join us today as we celebrate a night in Hollywood, but a virtual concert. So today is July 11th, and we had originally planned to join you from Sugar Hall in beautiful Okinawa, Japan with the Ryukyu Symphony Orchestra. And unfortunately, and understandably so, this concert has to be postponed until a later date when we can get together and make music safely together. But until then, we're going to keep the music going, and we're delighted to bring to you A Night in Hollywood, a virtual concert. We will take a look back at the last 3 years of our annual summer session program and concerts, where alumni of our program get to spend a week with these wonderful orchestras across the globe, learning conducting and conducting their own music in live performance. So I'm delighted to share with you moments from 2017 with the Rousse Philharmonic Orchestra in Rousse, Bulgaria, in 2018 with the Moravian Philharmonic Orchestra in Olomouc, Czech Republic, and in 2019 with the Boca Philharmonic Orchestra in Veracruz, Mexico. We'll also take a traditional intermission, but this time it'll be an intermission interview where I'll be joined by my dear friend and colleague, Mr. Conrad Pope, as we're interviewed by the wonderful conductor and host of WIPR's Banda Sonora, Mr. Rafael Enrique Irizarry. And following that, Conrad and I will share with you some of our favorite moments of classic Hollywood film scores. We're delighted you're joining us and look forward to the time when we can get together and make music together safely. But until then, be well, stay safe, and enjoy the performances. Let's take a look at 2017 with the Rousse Philharmonic Orchestra. This beautiful city is located on the border between Bulgaria and Romania and sits on the iconic Danube River.
Hi, my name is Mason Lamb. This is my piece, Before the Spirit Returns, from the summer session in 2017. This work portrays a simple but thoughtful reflection on life, love, loss, and the everyday beauty of humanity. The week I spent in Rousse was transformative in so many ways and served as a point of creative rebirth. Now, looking back, I can see how much my compositions have continued to grow and develop, but I look back on this piece with the very best of memories, and I'm happy to share it with you today. Enjoy.
Hi, my name is Martina Eisenreich and I'm a Munich-based composer here in Germany. You will hear my piece Song of the Wind, played by this wonderful orchestra in Rousse, Bulgaria in 2017. And please take some attention to Davide Bonomo, who did an amazing flute solo here. So, thank you so much for listening. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Mark. This is my friend Sam the Kiwi. We're here to tell you about my piece Fiordland. It's from a film I scored called Flying South, which involves a plane, mountains, and an epic flyover of a waterfall. I got a bit excited in the rehearsal with the Rousse Philharmonic the day before to the extent that I broke my baton. The lovely Vivian gave me her spare, and they still thought it was čudesan, which is Bulgarian for wonderful. I hope you do too.
Hi, I'm Greg Sims, a composer from Los Angeles. A few years ago, I was hired to compose the score for a Marathi language film shot on location in India. The producers wanted a traditional Western score, but with Indian flavors. I partly accomplished that by using Indian ragas to compose the main themes. This is part 2 suite. Thanks for listening.
Kia ora, I'm Damian Brill. Miss Brill is a theme I wrote from a short story by the New Zealand writer Catherine Mansfield. It's a somewhat melancholic story depicting the life of a middle-aged woman living during the Belle Epoque in France. It also portrays a person who sees the world in a very unique and different way to the other characters in the story around her. Here it is beautifully performed by the Rousse Philharmonic. I hope you enjoy it.
Next up is 2018 with the Moravian Philharmonic Orchestra in the iconic Czech city of Olomouc, Czech Republic.
Hi everyone, I'm Stefano Sacchi. I'm an Italian composer and conductor, and today I'm very happy to share with you my piece Fanfare and Theme, which was performed by the Moravian Philharmonic Orchestra during the summer session 2018. Enjoy!
Hi, my name is Adam Goins, and I am the composer and conductor of Kosen Rufu. Kosen Rufu is a term used in the Buddhism of Nichiren Daishonin, and it means to relieve people of suffering, leading to world peace. The point is that happiness isn't an absence of problems. It is believing in and tapping into your full potential to overcome those challenges. I wrote this piece as proof of this, as I have never written a piece for full orchestra before. It gives me great joy to present it to you in honor of this principle. I hope you enjoy.
Hi, my name is Damian Farrington. I'm a composer from France, and I've attended LAFCI's summer session in Olomouc, Czech Republic in 2018. I came with a piece called Filicudi. Filicudi is a small island in between Sicily and Italy, and the piece is part of an orchestral suite I'm working on. I hope you enjoy it.
Hi, my name is Justin Ward-Weber, and this is my piece, High Tide for Orchestra. I wrote this piece in inspiration of the ocean and her waves. I took the idea of the tides which push and pull, and I tried to capture that idea in this piece, in which I think the orchestra displays so beautifully. I thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy.
Hello everyone, and greetings from Finland. I wrote Cascades a few years ago for the LAFCI workshop as kind of a conducting etude to myself. For someone like me who mainly orchestrates for many talented composers of different styles, this was most of all a great learning experience. Please enjoy.
Hi everyone, my name is Ryan Beard. Thank you for watching this virtual concert. The next piece you'll hear is called Creatures Primeval. I wrote it specifically for the 2018 LAFCI summer session in the Czech Republic. The piece uses a 5-note chord in various permutations, and it evokes images of creepy, crawly, slimy things, flying beasts, and ferocious predators chasing you for their last meal. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you enjoy.
And finally, we have 2019's performance with the Boca del Rio Philharmonic Orchestra in the amazing seaside city of Veracruz, Mexico. Now, this event was even more special since we got to perform in the beautiful Fort Boca inside Salon Mester, or Mester Hall, named after the legendary conductor and teacher Jorge Mester, who is also one of the faculty members here at LAFCI. So we hope you enjoy this performance in 2019 with the Boca del Rio Philharmonic Orchestra.
Hello everyone, my name is Michael Choi from both United States and South Korea, and I was a participant of LAFCI workshop in the year 2019 for both winter and summer sessions. The piece that I'm going to share with you all is called Brother Tiger, which was performed in Veracruz, Mexico, and it has a Orient-inspired theme that talks about the epic tale of this tiger named Sangun. I hope you enjoy this piece, and please stay safe and strong during these difficult times of COVID-19. Thank you.
Hi. Last year I scored a film called The Voices, now available for streaming on Amazon Prime Video. The initial approach was to score the film as a psychological thriller, and I was excited to channel my inner Bernard Herrmann, or Uncle Benny, as I call him. Eventually, the score for the film ended up being more ambient and contemporary. But when I got the chance last July to conduct the Filarmónica de Boca del Rio, I was thrilled to be able to record a suite based on my original vision for the music. Without further ado, I present you with Crying Floorboards.
Hi, my name is McLean Deemer, and this next piece you're going to hear is called The Prophecy. It comes from a video game named Guild Wars 2, and it's about one of the major characters in the game who happens to be a dragon, transforming from this juvenile version of her that you had known previously into an ethereal being made almost of pure light, like an angel. There's a melancholy to it as you come to grips with the loss of this relationship with the character you had known into someone you can't connect with quite as much on this earthly plane. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoy it.
Hi, I'm Cindy O'Connor, and my piece is Regina the Good Queen. For this concert, I thought it would be fun to take an idea of something I wrote for Once Upon a Time and expand it for a larger orchestra. I had a wonderful time working with the musicians of the Boca del Rio Philharmonic, and I hope you enjoy the performance.
everyone. I am Chikako Iverson, a Japanese composer living in Oceanside, California. My composition is dedicated to the beautiful city of Veracruz in Mexico and the cosmic event of summer solstice, which is the day I started to compose. Please enjoy the beautiful performance of Orchestra Filarmonica Boca de Rio. Thank you.
And greetings to you all, friends of the Los Angeles Film Conducting Intensive. I am Enrique Irizarry from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and I have the distinct privilege today of interviewing the true master artists that have more or less helped so many of us for some time now in this complex and demanding world of professional music making. Mr. Conrad Pope, sir, and Maestro Angel Velez. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir.
So let's fire off with some background. Maestro, how did this LAFCI thing come about?
That's a great question. LAFCI started off as, I guess, the idea was birthed between two conductors complaining. Really, that's what it is. This organization was co-created with the wonderful composer and conductor David Newman. Years ago, about maybe 6 or so years ago, I was asked to come into the Academy of Scoring Arts, which was then run by the wonderful composer Ron Jones in LA, and talk about a bit of my background in conducting to one of his monthly group meetings of all these composers. And although I'd like to think I know about the fundamentals of it and how and why it should work, I don't feel I'm definitely an authority about it. So I asked Dave if he'd join in that conversation, and we did that. And we were both definitely critical of how we could work within the limitations of it. As you know, conducting is about how we can influence and make an ensemble and our experience with them better than as we first arrived to be with it. And anytime you can work with live musicians, you get a real honest response of how you really are doing. And at that point, we had a few conductors up on stage, and they conducted a few moments from the Star Wars suite with John Williams and the London Symphony. So anyone sounds magnificent and flawless when you have John Williams and the London Symphony on recording and you conduct with that. And so Dave and I definitely saw the fault in that, and kind of just shared back and forth. It's not the best way, because we both have backgrounds, at least in education, about of our experiences with traditional conducting workshops. And that definitely didn't meet those standards at all, or our standards. And we both reluctantly agreed to another one about 6 months later. And this just became emails and phone conversations going back and forth saying, this doesn't really do service. It's not like the traditional workshops, but yet those aren't really serving composers, let alone in the media side of things, media composers. And we just kind of said, someone should, there really should be someone. And we kind of just said, why don't we try it? And for better and worse, we tried it. And that became what is now the annual workshop, the intensive at Warner Brothers, each January. And then eventually, in an effort to provide as much opportunity for conductors to practice, we created the annual summer session program. So that's a bit of a winded explanation of how it kind of started.
Well, but what has become indeed a splendid experience for all concerned. Mr. Pope, sir, with your vast experience and credentials, what sort of input, what is your function within the context of this educational event? I know you have done some work in Europe with young composers, but this being the American art form for excellence, if we can call it that, with your experience, with your background, with your prestige, what do you bring into this program, sir?
I think that I'm somebody that is more comfortable with a pencil and writing music than with a baton conducting it. But I think that what I bring to this is to the students is that I'm one of them, is that I'm somebody that needs to look at conducting from the aspect of that I generally do it in a studio, generally do it producing scores. and generally do it to make performances that are worthy of the music that's been written. And so I think I'm there to sort of offer them an example of somebody that there used to be a cooking show here on television in Los Angeles, a Chinese cooking show run by a chap named Jan. And his opening line, and he was very enthusiastic and always very upbeat. And he would start every show with saying, "If Jan can cook, so can you." And I come to the intensive going, if Conrad can stand on the box and make them play, so can you. And so I'm a living proof that one can do this and survive and hopefully get better. And I bring that kind of experience and hopefully that kind of encouragement.
If I could be so bold to interject, my dear colleague, my dear friend here is being incredibly humble and downplaying his value, and that's one of the many reasons why we adore him. But as many of you, if all of you know, Conrad Pope is one of Hollywood's most incredible composers, who happens to conduct, who happens to arrange, who happens to orchestrate, who happens to save probably the rest of Hollywood. Conrad is genuinely one of my favorite composers. That's not the reason why Conrad is involved with this, but because Conrad is a natural, phenomenal teacher. He has a way of being very engaging, a way that very few do, that can demand so much of you, but not do it in a way that is belittling, not doing it in a way that is condescending. But also, I think the overall goal of this is that we are trying to not just teach conducting, which Conrad is a great conductor, but we're trying to influence the quality of music making via the lens of conducting, which forces us to address things such as orchestration with Conrad Pope, composition with William Ross, further technique with Jorge Mester, body movement with Emily Bernstein, score part formatting with Booker White from Disney, and this amazing team is, provides the highest experience possible. But Conrad Pope is first and foremost a marvelous master with the pencil and staff paper. And also, we're trying to get everyone else to be at that level of the Conrad Popes as composers.
And he's also a great storyteller. I have noticed that most of his teaching style is predicated on the fact that he has the right anecdote to tell about a particular situation. So it is not just that he stands there and tells you how to fix a problem, but he tells you how the actual process of identifying the problem and solving it creates other resources for that conductor.
A mark of a great teacher. You're learning without even realizing it. He is the shepherd. We are the mere sheep amongst wolves.
Wow. Well, all I'll say is that I tell the story simply because it's a way of engaging people, but also if there is a problem, I always like to say, if I've got a good story, I like to talk about how that problem came about, either through being able that somebody overlooked something or wasn't aware of something, and then later say you had to fix it. And so there's always a point. It's very kind of you to say, but yes, I think that what's great about the intensive and that I'm totally behind, and though I do teach another class in Europe for about orchestration, this is actually my favorite class to be involved with because the results are so amazing at the end of the 3 days, which seem like, or 4 days, or whatever the hell it is. It seems like 2 weeks, just so that you know. It's
at least 2 weeks. It has earned its name, the intensive.
It is very intense. Yeah. Go ahead.
And now that we've come to this, Maestro Velez, could you please share with us some stories that might stand out about your experiences the last few years organizing this event?
In terms of like the summer session we do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, either the summer session or the winter event at Warner Brothers.
Oh boy. I will tell you that each
the ones that can be told, of course.
Yeah, there are definitely those stories that are told over drinks and then in private. There are golly, I will share that with great sincerity that each time with the end, whether it's the intensive over at Warner Brothers or if it's a summer session program that we're doing, each year, genuinely, I am convinced for about 2 or 3 weeks I'm never doing this again. Really, I am. Because it had become the most expensive iteration of it. I had lost money on it. This unexpected problem came about. This international problem came about. This domestic problem came about. I think as a teacher, that you never really know if you're successful until long after that event or the lesson is over. Although our intensive is 5 days or we have 7 days, the summer program, the real learning happens on the day after or the week after, the month after, the year, whatever it is. And hearing stories from people about their positive experience. I remember when Dave and I first were talking about this years ago, we were just spitballing ideas about what this could look like. We were trying to model it at one point after the American Symphony Orchestra League, no longer the ASOL, for not a very well thought out acronym.
American League of Symphony Orchestras now.
Exactly, yes, but now the League of American Symphony, right. But my late teacher had run the Donald Tallene workshops for conductors, which had then developed many of wonderful conductors out there, work professionally. And we tried to do that model and at one point I thought what would be fantastic is we could somehow have like this program that every person involved would feel they're almost part of a camp, or we could all be in the same hotel. Somehow logistically it worked out. And I found out that when our first summer program in Bulgaria with the wonderful Rousse Philharmonic Orchestra, that everything was so centrally located. This amazing city, incredibly vibrant. The hotel is right there, everything. And unexpectedly, this community kind of started happening. We ended up hanging out at a restaurant almost every night I think it was called Happy. You were there. I think it was something like that. And it became this happy hour or whatever. All those little stories, make my heart so excited. Or when we get a chance to do little Zoom meetings like this with alumni, is the most exciting thing. Those are probably the safest stories. I will tell you, there are definitely times where I'm worried that there could be like, LAFCI, the Hangover edition, like from the movie, that somehow we get someone lost and ends up on a roof of a hotel. There's always that fear. I don't know. Conrad, do you have a favorite moment? I remember
there is a moment with Mr. Pope that stands out with me. We were having problems in Veracruz. I think there was a truckers' strike, and most of the orchestra players were going to be late that morning, and the rehearsal was going to start with the music for Jurassic Park, materials with which Mr. Poe was involved. And even though the orchestra was incomplete, the essence of the music was there. And he made us stop, and Mr. Pope made this incredible statement about the quality of the music being so right. Do you recall that situation, Mr. Pope?
No, I don't. I'm afraid not. I don't recall. I'm sorry.
You stopped the rehearsal, and you made sure that everyone present noted that despite the fact that the orchestra was not complete, the music maintained its essence. To me, that was a revelatory event, sir.
That sounds like something I do, because I remember doing, I think it was Harry Potter, one of those things with 1 million people in it, and I had an orchestra of 22, and it sounded completely full. It sounded like the full orchestra. My wife posted it once on Facebook because it was in Vienna.
Great writing.
But great writing. That's one of the reasons I think people should study conducting, because today we've entered a world in which between Spotify and everything else, we don't spend any time with music. Not to sound like the boomer I am, but I think that it's important for young people to sort of get this idea that music is something that can be made in a way that it won't fall down. There's a way of constructing it and certain principles that if the parts are well written, they will always have power. because the power lies in their conception and not in some sort of trick about where to stick them. So yeah, no, it sounds like something I would do because it's one of my milestones. It's not how big the orchestra, like I say, the smaller the music, the bigger the orchestra. And the bigger the music, the smaller the it will make giants from the smallest ensemble.
Yeah.
And conversely, bad music will make pygmies out of the best orchestra in the world. And I think that it's important for young people to understand and also work with working musicians, and particularly in an age when there are not so many performers doing music as there once was, or composing music. I think that it's important for we who spend a lot of time by ourselves in rooms by ourselves with pencils and not with other people, to really have a sense of what it's like to be with these geniuses and these people that have dedicated their lives to making music, that have just decades of experience, and learning the joy of working with them and learning from them and collaborating with them and how to communicate with them and how you can grow by being with them. And I think that's one of the great gifts that Angel's program gives to all of us. And that's one reason to, I never tire of it, but I've said enough right there.
Thank you for those beautiful words. Maestro Velez, or Velez as you prefer. Do you have some insight that could explain why so many young people in this day and age are attracted to film composing?
Oh gosh.
I find it surprising. I really do.
Yeah, me too.
Either film or media composing.
Yeah, I think there are two parts of it. It's definitely a lot more accessible. I mean, look at, on my iPhone, I have a GarageBand on here.
Mm-hmm.
I can easily drag and drop and create things, wherever I'm at. So it kind of gives easier accessibility to any kind of music making, but it also dangerously redefines, I think, the word composer. There are many people out there, the vast majority are very highly competent, capable individuals, whether, working a lot or not as much. But there are also those out there that are just attracted to it because it's used with such popularity in all forms of media. From the two simple notes of E and F and Jaws to, really, it's not to sound cliche, but it is the soundtrack of our lives. It really is. There's some kind of event that we associate, whatever it is, with media. That could be social media, it could be the news, it could be any event out there. And I think it's a natural thing too. And I think people are innately attracted to quality things. From my experiences, I didn't grow up really with a lot of knowledge at all of film music, at all. I came about my knowledge of film music because I first bought those CDs. I remember there's a Cincinnati Pops album, and that was how I think I first knew about the movie Twister, before the actual movie itself. I had no idea, but it became very programmatic, and I could definitely...
And that was the blockbuster when it came out. Yeah.
Right, yeah, and that's the kind of sheltered childhood I had. It was I still didn't see it, or even like the great Disney films. Yeah.
But you were born in the Midwest. Tornadoes for you are not something completely unknown.
Right, but going all the time to to the movie theater was definitely unknown, at least for me. It's I was very much enthralled with being in youth orchestra, playing Verdi and doing Mozart and learning about Tchaikovsky and geeking out over his Fourth Symphony. That was me, or drumming. I'm a percussionist.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think people are just naturally engaged with that. I mean, there's all that. It's a very easy, engaging thing to do, especially with this being programmatic.
Mr. Pope, the theory has been advanced on several fronts that film music has indeed helped symphonic music in terms of opening a door for younger generations to the larger standard repertoire. Let's call it Central European compositions. to put it in other words, film music has helped people lose fear from classical music. Do you think that there is some basis for that reasoning?
I think you're absolutely right. I think that what's been great is that as we've now moving into the 21st century and as a survivor of the 20th century, I'll just briefly say that a friend of mine was so happy when January 1st, 2000 arrived. He said, and of course the math is a little wrong, but he said, "It's so great to finally be gone with 20th century music." He was really funny about it. But this is all by way of saying, in the concert world, as the 20th century was winding down, there was a kind of schism, I would say, between film music and classical music. And certainly as somebody that went to some conservatories and dealt with a lot of classical snobs, and I'm probably one, it was very rare for... it was like the Oklahoma. It was odd for the ranchers and the cowboys to be friends, or whatever, the farmers and the ranchers to be friends. And so as the 20th century sort of played out, modern music and 20th century music lost audiences. In fact, audiences started to go away from from orchestral music because it became such a niche, specialist pursuit. And it seemed as though the composers had forgotten how to build a bridge between the proscenium of the stage and the audience. And composers were more concerned with how their thoughts, as opposed to having something to communicate with the audience. At the same token, as classical music and art music was moving to become such a specialist field, film music was almost like the monasteries of an earlier age, of where the great treasures of the 19th century and the early 20th century were taken in, and almost by, you might consider the early composers of film music, they needed to have music that was effective, communicative, something that spoke directly to people, and putting this music in movies, which didn't have the stigma of making you show up with a suit, tie, and all this kind of stuff, and a fancy thing at the concert. It was amazing the powerful music of the West that these composers kept alive and channeled that tradition. In fact, they continued that tradition and actually advanced it in certain ways, even in film music. And I'm thinking, of course, of Steiner and Korngold, as well as, of course, Alex North and Tiomkin and Voxman, and all these people continue on to today with, or late 20th century, Goldsmith and Williams, that this is a long way around to get to the point of saying, yes, that John Williams, when he took over the Boston Pops, was the first to take a major symphony orchestra, bring film music and popular music onto the concert stage, and made it live there. And it sort of was it was a way of showing the classical people that it's not that far off, that really it's fun, that they were denying themselves a new repertoire, and perhaps a repertoire that didn't have the same rules, say, as classical music, but it freed itself of the stigma of being popular music or media music. And I think that we live in an exciting time when, in the 20th century, there were so many walls being built between various genres, that we now live in an era where the computer, the iPhone, the social and computers and everything else has torn walls down, not only between professional musicians, but also aspiring musicians. Now today, with technology, a person might be 16 years old and become a great composer, simply because the computers enable people that you don't have to start playing piano when you're 4 years old anymore in order to enter this field. So it's a very exciting time. And yes, I think that film music has helped save classical music. And there's Ricky back. And I think it's going to continue. I think it's going to continue to be that way. And if for no other reason, that these composers that come to the intensive, they should find that experience exciting, and also perhaps they will be conducting their own work someday on a stage.
Yeah, I mean that was one of the reasons why Dave and I had first these conversations. We started to kind of harken back to that golden age of recording of all the film music from, especially his, renowned father, Alfred Newman, and to address hopefully or prevent any kind of degradation in quality of recording. And of course, to also address the quality of writing too. Hence, again, why someone like Mr. Pope is so of immense value to an organization like this.
There is this a school of thinking going around that feels that there has been an immense decline in musical literacy. Sometimes I agree with that, sometimes I disagree, but it would seem that an event such as LAFCI helps, in a sense, to stop that decline and actually creates a situation in which musical literacy does grow because, let's say, you're putting the students in contact with the current traditions, the current industry standards, but perhaps at the same time, you're putting the students in contact with the greater traditions of the past. Could you say that about this program, sir?
Well, I mean, isn't the purpose of literacy is to help bridge the connection with communication? That's it. It's why, otherwise we can only live orally and be just fine. But the further, I'm a big believer that, literacy and all forms of language are forms of power too. And I think literacy only becomes in question when the effectiveness of communication becomes of concern. And I can only share a personal perspective, but I think that, as Conrad shared, that the end of the 20th century is coming about, at least in the media side that I can see a bit more retrospectively, things like melody started to diminish. And maybe it, rightfully so, maybe it just wasn't as effective. But I don't know how sustainable that is. It is something that, again, we're not trying to advocate exclusively for melody. Quality of writing can be defined in various terms. But I think literacy and us addressing that are necessary things. The old idea of that, once you know all the rules, then you can break the rules, but not until then. And here we're just trying to reinforce these things and these great ideas that all the composers have. And we have our alumni now are almost approaching 120 alumni of our program in our 5+ years of existence. And all of them come from very different backgrounds. Some have doctorates in composition. Others have never...
From all over the world.
Yes, yeah. And others have,
all over the world. That's important to note too.
Yeah, absolutely right. And they're all valid. They all have something to communicate. But as long as they have that form of literacy in all forms, it's absolutely necessary, whether it's communicating as a conductor, your thoughts. And Mr. Pope can talk about, much more eloquently about this, but from sitting in the back of orchestras beforehand and reading stuff that doesn't recognize there's an understanding of my instrument, what it can do well. Being a percussionist, I've sat in front of things that are really clear and simple to things that look like it's written for, a Paganini caprice. And I'm thinking, this is a drum set part. What are we possibly doing here? And those things, especially in a recording environment where, in Family Guy, the joke was, let's record first and rehearse second. It's not a joke. And so in order to be as efficient as possible, literacy is absolutely crucial.
We're coming to the end of our intermission. I'd like to thank Mr. Conrad Pope for my youth. And Maestro Velez, thank you for allowing me to... Sir, I'm sure I'm not alone in those feelings. I'm sure I'm not.
Too kind.
Thank you
Too kind.
Thank you for our youth.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank Mr. Joel Henderson, who has handled the technical side of this interview. And now, let us return now to our virtual concert, A Night in Hollywood, next featuring performances recorded live with Mr. Conrad Pope and Maestro Angel Velez on the podium of 3 different international orchestras, the Philharmonic Orchestra of Rousse, Bulgaria, the Moravian Philharmonic of Olomouc, Czech Republic, y la Orquesta Filarmónica de Boca del Río in Veracruz, Mexico. Enjoy this magnificent music.
The next part of our program features performances by myself and faculty member Conrad Pope. Conrad and I are the faculty for these events each summer, and what we usually do for the second half of a concert is we try to focus on some sort of iconic Hollywood music that our audience will enjoy and recognize no matter where we are across the globe. We've done things such as Jurassic Park, we've done Black Panther, we've done moments from silent films live, and everything in between. So in these moments, we usually have a certain theme. From 2017, our theme with the Rousse Philharmonic Orchestra was Hollywood love stories. And in 2018, we focused on Hollywood classics with the Moravian Philharmonic Orchestra. And in 2019, we focused on Hollywood classics yesterday and today with the Boca del Rio Philharmonic Orchestra. Enjoy these performances with myself and Mr. Conrad Pope. Well, it looks like we come to the end of our time together today, and thank you very much for joining us as we took a look back at the last 3 years of LAFCI's annual summer session program and a concert. My sincerest appreciation to the musicians and administrations of the Rousse Philharmonic Orchestra in Bulgaria, the Moravian Philharmonic Orchestra in the Czech Republic, and of the Boca del Rio Philharmonic Orchestra in Mexico. I'm sorry we couldn't join you today as we had planned from Sugar Hall in Okinawa, Japan with the Ryukyu Symphony, but hopefully we can have that rescheduled soon and share it with you. If you'd like to learn more about LAFCI, what we do and why we do it, please visit us at lafci.org. And there you'll also notice we have another virtual event coming to you soon on August 1st. It'll be the LAFCI's newest program, the 2020 New Music Project, where we have members of LAFCI's alumni coming together to write new pieces of music addressing the new repertoire needs for this coming season, making all this music available for free download. And to celebrate and kick it off on August 1st, we'll have solo performances brought to you by members of the Chicago Symphony, New York Philharmonic, the Philadelphia Orchestra, LA Philharmonic, London Symphony, Indianapolis Symphony, Cincinnati Symphony, Nashville Symphony, Christchurch Symphony, and many more. Hopefully we'll see you then on August 1st. Well, until then, thanks for joining us as we celebrate a night in Hollywood, and be well and stay safe.